Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going deep into this company called KP Green Engineering.
Okay.
They're doing some really interesting things with renewable energy and infrastructure over in India.
Interesting.
You know, you sent over some of those excerpts from their earnings called Transcript.
Yeah.
And wow, their revenue is up 156% year over year.
Yeah.
That's
nuts.
That is really something.
Like, that's not just growth. That's like a full-on explosion.
It is. And what I think is particularly interesting is that they're describing themselves as a one-stop solution for, like, all things renewable energy infrastructure. That's a pretty bold claim.
It is.
And, you know, their numbers suggest that they may be actually pulling it off.
So let's kind of break this down a little bit.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean, to be a one-stop solution in this space?
Well, they're doing pretty much everything, like transmission towers, solar trackers, all the way to specialized structures.
Wow.
So think of it this way. If you're trying to build like a large-scale solar farm.
Yeah. Instead of having to like contract all these different companies for all the different parts.
Right.
You can go to KP Green Engineering and just work with them.
Oh, wow.
They handle the whole thing for you.
So they're like the general contractor almost.
Yeah, exactly. It streamlines everything.
And that's going to save so many headaches.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially with all the moving pieces in this industry.
Exactly. And, you know, I think that's a big reason why their revenue is just skyrocketing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But a one-stop solution only works if you've got the right customers coming to you.
Right.
So what can you tell us about their client base? Like, who are they working with?
They actually have a really diverse client base.
Okay.
About 40% of their business comes from their parent company, KP Group.
Oh, interesting.
Which, you know, is pretty smart because it gives them like a really stable base to work from.
Yeah, it's like guaranteed revenue in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. And that can be huge, especially in like a volatile market.
For sure. Sure. But that still leaves 60%, you know, where's the rest of their business coming from?
So they've done a really good job of diversifying beyond their parent company.
Okay.
The other 60% is split between government projects and private companies.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like a really nice balance.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, super important for the long term.
Right.
That means they're not overly reliant on any one client or like one sector.
Smart. So, okay, they've got the strong business model.
Yeah.
They've got a really diverse client base.
Yeah.
That sounds like a super solid foundation to grow from.
It does.
But I kind of want to zoom out a little bit here.
Sure.
What's the overall industry outlook like for a company like KP Green Engineering? Is the renewable energy sector in India really as hot as everyone's saying it is?
Oh, it's definitely booming.
Okay.
The Indian government has set some really ambitious targets for clean energy, and that's driving a ton of investment.
Got it.
And you've also got like increasing interest from the private sector. You know, companies are trying to reduce their carbon footprint.
Of course.
And they want to take advantage of like the falling costs of renewable energy.
Right.
So it's a really great environment for companies like KP Green Engineering that can, you know, provide the infrastructure to support all this growth.
So it sounds like they're kind of in the right place at the right time.
For sure.
But what about their own future outlook? Like specifically, they've been hinting at some pretty big expansion plans.
Yeah, their expansion strategy is definitely aggressive.
Okay.
They're building this massive new facility at Matar, which is going to significantly increase how much they can produce.
Wow.
And that's not even all.
Okay.
They've also mentioned wanting to expand internationally. And they even like landed their first export order from a solar tracker manufacturer in the U.S.
Oh, wow. So they're already making moves.
Yeah.
That's big.
It is.
It shows that they're not just content with like, you know, owning the market in India.
Right.
They want to be a global player. That's awesome.
And I think their early success with that U.S. order, really shows that they're on the right track.
Okay, so this is all really exciting stuff, but we can't forget that every business faces risks.
True.
So what are some of the potential challenges that KP Green Engineering might run into as they continue to grow?
Well, one of the biggest ones is their reliance on steel prices.
Okay.
Steel is like a major input cost for them.
Right.
And, you know, any big price swings could really mess with their margins.
Yeah.
They do use hedging strategies to try and like lessen that risk.
Okay.
But it's still something to keep an eye on.
So they're not completely immune to like the ups and downs of the commodities market.
Right. Exactly.
Are there any other risks that they need to kind of be aware of?
Yeah, I think another big one is competition.
Okay.
You know, the renewable energy sector is getting more and more crowded.
Right.
And KP Green Engineering is going to be facing competition from like companies all over the world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they're going to have to stay really agile and innovative to keep that competitive edge.
And not get, like, squeezed on pricing or anything like that.
Exactly.
So they've got a solid plan.
Yeah.
But they can't just, like, sit back and relax.
No, they've got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
Adapting to the market because it's always changing.
That's the name of the game, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, we're just getting started here.
Okay.
There's a lot more to unpack about KP Green Engineering, so stay tuned.
Yeah, they've definitely done a good job of setting themselves up for success.
Yeah.
But it's not just about being in, like, the right industry.
Right.
You have to make smart decisions.
Of course. Of course.
Like, take their current facility, for example.
Okay.
They mentioned that they're operating somewhere between 40% to 50% capacity, which means they're not even running at full steam. Right. And they're already generating, like, a ton of revenue.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it is.
So, like, just imagine what they could do.
Yeah.
Once they get that new facility up and running. I mean, we could be talking, like, double.
Easily.
Or even triple their current output.
Absolutely. And you can tell they're thinking ahead. Like, they're being really proactive about making sure they can meet the demand, as the industry grows.
Right.
And speaking of demand,
it
looks like they've got a pretty healthy pipeline of projects lined up.
Okay.
They mentioned having a pipeline between 1,000 to 2,000 crore rupees.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not even counting potential orders from, like, KP Group itself.
Oh, right. Their parent company.
Yeah, exactly. And there's, like, a huge amount of synergy there.
Yeah, for sure.
KP Group is heavily involved in, like, wind and solar projects.
Right.
And KP Green Engineering is right there, to build what they need.
It's kind of a perfect match.
It is. They can really feed each other's growth.
Yeah. And one investor even estimated that internal orders alone could add another 1,000 crore rupees to their order book.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely possible, especially when you think about the scale of KP Group's projects.
Right.
Like, they're talking about building this massive 1.3 gigawatt IPP plant.
Okay.
And that's going to need a lot of infrastructure.
A lot.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about their plans to go global.
Right.
They've already, like, dipped their toes in the water.
Yeah, with that solar tracker order.
Exactly, from the U.S.
Yeah.
And they've mentioned wanting to expand into other regions, too, like the Middle East.
Oh, yeah, the Middle East. That's a smart move.
Right.
Yeah, they're investing a ton in renewable energy over there.
Yeah.
And I think KP Green Engineering's expertise would be really valuable there.
Yeah. It seems like they've got, like, a really clear path forward.
They do.
Both in India and, like, internationally.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to shift gears a little bit here.
Sure.
And talk about their actual products.
Okay.
Like, they're not just making transmission towers and solar trackers.
No, they're not.
They're getting into some new and interesting stuff.
They are.
So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, they've been, like, branching out.
Okay.
Offering more products to meet the needs of the renewable energy sector.
Right.
And the infrastructure sector in general.
Okay, cool.
So now they're making things like monopoles,
Go
which are used for wind turbines.
Got it.
High mast towers for lighting and surveillance.
Okay.
And even pre-engineered buildings.
It's like they're trying to become like a one-stop shop.
They are.
For everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
That has to do with sustainable infrastructure.
Pretty much.
And they're not just, like, relying on their own in-house expertise either.
Right.
They've been, like, teaming up.
Yeah, forming these partnerships.
With other companies to kind of boost what they can do.
Yeah, and those partnerships are really important.
Okay, why is that?
It helps them stay ahead of the curve, like
see.
They're getting access to new technologies.
Yeah.
And, they've mentioned working with companies like Nextracker and Game Changer from the U.S.
Yeah.
And even a company from Germany.
Wow, so they're really building, like, this global network of innovation.
They are.
Yeah, and it looks like it's paying off.
It does.
I mean, they were able to beat out other competitors.
Yeah.
For that solar tracker contract in the U.S.
Right.
So clearly they're doing something right.
Yeah, it shows that they're bringing something unique to the table.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to compete.
So it sounds like they're really firing on all cylinders here.
Yeah.
They're expanding their production. They're, adding new products.
Yeah.
They're getting international orders.
Yep.
And they're, like, making all these deals.
It's impressive.
It's really impressive.
Yeah.
But even with all this momentum, we have to remember that there are still risks.
Right.
We talked earlier about their reliance on steel prices.
Yeah.
That's something that could really hurt them.
It could.
If they're not careful.
Yeah. Their hedging strategy is going to be put to the test.
Right. Especially as they need more and more steel.
Exactly.
And they're going to have to make sure that those contracts
about
passing on price changes are really solid.
Absolutely. Like airtight.
Airtight.
Yeah.
Okay, so steel is definitely something to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
But then there's also just the challenge of execution.
Right.
You know, scaling up production, managing a growing workforce. That's not easy.
Especially at the speed they're going.
Exactly.
It's a lot to handle.
And then, of course, there's the competition.
Right.
As the renewable energy sector gets more and more competitive.
Yeah, it's only going to get tougher.
They're going to have to really fight to keep their market share.
They will.
They can't afford to get complacent.
No, they can't.
Okay, so steel execution competition. These are all big challenges.
They are, but, based on what we've seen so far, I think they're in a good position to overcome them.
Yeah, they seem to have like a really good handle on things.
They do. They've got a clear vision, a solid strategy, and a good team.
Yeah.
So, I'm optimistic.
Me too. But there's one more thing I want to touch on.
Okay.
They mentioned something called KP Green Hydrogen.
Oh, yeah.
In their earnings call.
Yeah.
Which is another company in the KP group focused on green hydrogen production.
Right.
Now, green hydrogen, that's a pretty new field.
It is.
But it has a lot of potential.
Which one?
So it makes you wonder if KP Green Engineering could get involved.
That's an interesting thought.
Right.
Yeah, because green hydrogen is like a key part of the whole transition to sustainable energy.
For sure.
So if KP Green Engineering could use their expertise to support green hydrogen production, that could be like a whole new avenue of growth for them.
Exactly.
And it would fit perfectly with what they're already doing.
Right. It would be like a natural expansion of their business.
Yeah. Definitely something to watch.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see if they make any moves in that direction.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have.
We've talked about their financial performance.
Yeah.
Their client base. Their expansion plans.
Yeah.
The risks they face.
Yeah.
And now this potential move into green hydrogen.
It's been a fascinating deep dive.
It really have.
KP Green Engineering is definitely a company to keep an eye on.
Agreed. But now I want to turn it over to you.
Okay.
And get your expert take on what all of this means for our listeners.
Yeah, I think KP Green Engineering's story is a really great example of how a company can capitalize on a growing industry.
Yeah.
Their focus on providing these complete solutions combined with their aggressive expansion and, all those new technologies and partnerships. It really shows just how ambitious they are.
Yeah. They're definitely setting a high bar.
They are.
But for our listeners, the ones who are really trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
What's the key takeaway here from KP Green Engineering's success?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is the importance of anticipating industry trends. KP Green Engineering, they saw the potential of renewable energy in India really early on.
Right.
And they put themselves in a position to grow.
Yeah.
They didn't just wait around, they made things happen.
It's like they had a crystal ball.
Well, maybe not a crystal ball.
Okay.
But they were definitely paying attention. Their investments in capacity expansion.
Yeah.
They were getting ready for this wave.
Right.
Before a lot of their competitors were even thinking about it.
Interesting. And their commitment to diversification has clearly played a role too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Both in terms of their clients and the products they offer.
Yeah, it's they didn't put all their eggs in one basket.
Right.
And that's made them a lot more resilient.
Makes sense.
Diversification is so important, especially in an industry like this. It changes all the time.
Yeah, and it helps them manage risk too, right?
Exactly.
By spreading things out.
Yep, they've created a much more sustainable business.
Okay, and we can't forget about those partnerships either.
Oh, yeah. Those are key.
And how quickly they've adopted new technologies.
Yeah, they know that innovation is essential.
Yeah.
If you want to stay ahead in this game.
So for investors who are looking for opportunities in renewable energy, KP Green Engineering seems like a pretty compelling story.
It is.
They've got a great track record.
Yeah.
A clear vision for the future. And a management team that's not afraid to take risks.
Yeah. They're definitely a company worth watching.
Agreed. But as with any investment,
right,
it's important to do your research.
Absolutely.
And, figure out if it's the right fit for you.
For sure.
Okay, so we've reached the end of our deep dive into KP Green Engineering.
We have.
We've looked at their business model.
Yeah.
Analyzed their decisions. And uncovered their plans for what's next.
It's been a really interesting look at this company.
It has.
And I hope our listeners have learned something.
We do. KP Green Engineering is a company that's really pushing the boundaries.
They are.
And they're going to play a big part in shaping the future of renewable energy.
I agree.
not just in India, but around the world.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring.